I'm Ann Boyle, and my maiden name was Weiss, which is very German, which is German for white. And we lived in, I was born in Romania, 1938, the year before World War II started. And it was a very primitive place. We had no indoor plumbing, no electricity, horse and carriage, you know, like the Old West. And so I was a kid, you know. I didn't know any different, and I guess most of my parents did, or most of my people didn't, you know. They didn't know what was out there in the big wide world. And but then World War II started, and again we had no newspapers, no radio, so I had no idea what was going on. My parents never talked about it, not that I know of. I still remember it was set up, the Hof, which is like the place or the property. You walked in, you came in, there was a big gate, and then there was the smaller gate for people to walk in, and there was the house on the left-hand side and a big veranda, and so we were, it was the living area, then the horses, and then the outhouse and the well, and then there was a barn in the back, and across from the house was a root cellar, I guess you would call it, and we had chickens, geese, pigs, cows, I guess, you know. I don't remember the cows, but must have had horses. And I was a kid, I was perfectly contented. You know, my parents were there. And then my father got drafted into the army, and he was in the Romanian Army and then eventually the German Army, because I asked him why did he join the German Army, and he said they sent money home to the families, which the Romanian Army did not. So he was gone, I guess pretty much during the war. He came home occasionally, because I have a brother and sister, so he must come home occasionally. And my grandparents, we lived with my grandparents on my mother's side. So what I do remember is the German army coming through on their way to Russia, and they were very nice young men, I guess. And then 1944, in October 1944, they came back from Russia because they were losing the war, and they told us get out because we were ethnic Germans, and they're going to kill you, they're going to kill the men, they're going to rape the women, and they'll send everybody to Siberia. So we were sort of hesitant because it's crop time, especially my grandfather said to my aunt, we're ready to bring the crops in, but my aunt was 17, I guess, and the soldier said to him, but you have a daughter. So this was my other grandfather, and he said, okay, we'll leave. And little by little, we packed up our covered wagons, just like the Old West. And I have a book, a little book that I translated, and the priest, we had a German priest We had German teachers and everything. I only spoke German. He said he went up to the clock tower, and he was watching, the wagons getting ready, and he said everybody waited for a while, and then one left, and then they all followed. So it must have been touching. I cried when I read that. So then we made our way across Hungary to the Austrian border, and they separated us into two groups. I stayed with my mom begged. They were going to send her with my husband, my father's family, and she said, "No, I want to stay with my mom and dad." And they said, okay. So we wound up in Austria. They were sent to East Germany, which was horrible. So we lived in Austria for 2 years, and I guess the American Army or the Allies took care of us. They gave us food, they gave us a place to stay, and eventually they must have given us a house, because I remember being in the house. And my father was in the German Army in Finland fighting the Russians. And he was being transferred to Yugoslavia to fight the communists there. And he came into our town for some reason. He was on a train on his way, and he met somebody from our town, and he said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "We're all here. Your wife's here." So he came into the house, and unannounced, of course, and my mother saw him, and she said, "Jesus, Maria, and Joseph." I remember that. And so then he stayed. I guess he deserted because they were losing the war. Must have been 1945. The war was ending, and he deserted and got a job on a farm. So we stayed there for 2 years, and then they transferred us to Germany to work for farmers, because they needed people to work their farms. And so, again, luckily I spoke German. So in Austria was fine, Germany was fine. In fact, they spoke our dialect, because there's so many dialects in German, like you consider the United States, all the different dialects, like Southern dialect, Western dialect, and New Jersey accent, which I have. New York, you could always tell the people from up north. So anyway, I went to school there, and I was 6th grade, and then that was, this was 1946. So we lived there for 4 years, and then my mother's aunt, who had come to the United States in the 20s, when a lot of people used to come here in the 20s, because things were better here before the what do you call that?
Depression. The Depression.
Yeah. And the fall of the stock market. So they would work here for a while, send money home, and got married. She had 2 kids. So she sponsored us to come to the United States. And we stayed with her a few weeks. And then my father got a job in New Jersey. Well, this was in Long Island City. And then my father got a job in New Jersey digging graves. This was before they used machinery to dig graves. And we lived in a couple of apartments. And so they saved their money. They were able to buy a house and had to learn English. I didn't know one word of English, not even yes or no. But I learned quickly because we came in April. They put me, well, we went to Catholic school, and they put me next to a girl who was my translator, basically. And I would say, what are they doing now? Or what's that? What are they saying? Because I was very curious. I was eager to learn. And then so this was in April, well, maybe May. So over the summer, I learned German. I learned English.
Of what year?
Yeah.
Of what year?
1950. Yeah. So over the summer, by the time I came back from school, I learned English.
Now, when you were growing up in Germany, you told me how during further education, they skipped over the Holocaust and World War II.
Yes, that's right. I didn't learn anything about the war. My parents never talked about it. The teachers never talked about it. I guess it was too raw. It was too soon after the war. And when I came to the United States, I found out about the Holocaust, and I said, my people did this. I felt so bad. I still feel bad. I still relate to, I feel bad for the Palestinians, but what the Jewish people have gone through over the years is just mind-boggling, you know. So.
Now, you told me when I first met you how you're grateful to be an American.
Oh, yes.
Tell me why more people should be grateful to live in this country.
Well, I think if they lived in another country, in fact, somebody else said this to me recently, if they lived in another country, maybe for a month, they would be happy to come to the United States because it's so much better here. You have all these opportunities. You can be president. Well, I can't because I'm not native born, but not that I want to be either.
What are some other first-hand World War II accounts you remember?
Well, I was telling my daughter that my aunt in Austria, she took the movies. She took me to the movies, and I had never been to the movies in my life, so I had no idea what this was about. And they showed I guess they had filmed themselves, the Nazis had filmed themselves in a concentration camp. And all I remember is these two men brought out a man and they shot him and they threw him in a pile of bodies. I had no idea what this was about. So when I came to the United States and I learned about the Holocaust, I said, oh, that's what it was. And my aunt, I guess I didn't, I was a kid. Oh, and the other thing they showed, again, they must have filmed themselves. They brought these kids, children, into a hospital setting, and there was a man there, and they drained their blood, giving this man blood transfusion. And then when the kid was dead, they brought another kid. Again, I had no idea what this was about. And when I think of it now, it's horrible. My friend, my next door neighbor just came back from a Rhine cruise, and she had been to Germany. They stopped certain areas, and she said, and also my other daughter, not this one here, had gone to concentration camp 2 years ago, Yeah. And she said, German people are so guilty about this, that everybody's guilty. They still remember it after all this time. And they're going to be on the Jewish people's side, that's for sure, because they know what the Jews have gone through, and there's all these guilt feelings. So, I mean, I was a kid. Should I have guilt feelings? I don't know.